Hey, hey.
Hey Justin, good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you too, man.
Where are we speaking from today? Are you in Italy right now or in Canada?
I'm back in Canada. I'm close to Vancouver right now.
Oh, nice. Okay. How long are you going to be there
Yeah.
for?
I'm here now until the end of June, and then we're gonna go to Europe for a year and get an apartment, proper apartment, and travel a bit from there and see more of Europe and yeah. But here for now, for still a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you and I spoke a few months ago. I was on your show, and then
Yeah.
you came to do an interview with me. And in those few months, you've had like a lot of stuff happen, right? Your business has blown up in a big way.
Yeah. Crazy.
What happened? What changed?
Um, I think one of the biggest things was that I started posting daily on social media. I
Hmm.
started mostly on Facebook. The majority of what grew was from Facebook. Made a lot of really good partnerships. Honestly, like posting daily, I have a really killer offer, honing the offer in a whole bunch. But then what really brought in the clients, like at the end of the day, was a partnership with a LinkedIn cold specialist.
Yeah.
I did his podcast, he did LinkedIn cold for our business, and I don't know, man, like just calls and calls and calls with ideal prospects. Pretty much totally automated with my VA and his team, and a lot of those people became clients. We had a really good offer, but we just weren't in front of enough people, and that combined with the daily posting, like doing cold isn't enough in my opinion. Like you got to do cold in combination with content so that when people see your cold stuff, they have something to get to know you better from. And
Hmm.
every call that I hopped on, they were like, "Oh, I saw your post about you and your fiance going here. Or I saw your post about like, you doing this or that." And I really relate with that. And immediately they like you and they have some kind of similarity to you. And man, the sales calls have been easy. And it's just selling and selling, raise the prices, no objections, keep selling, selling, raise the prices again. Built the whole program into a course, saved myself like 10 hours a client. Now I can work very little amount just on very targeted points of the business. And yeah, it's amazing.
Amazing. And is this the first time one of your offers has like really popped off and blown up?
Yeah, man. I'm 23. This is my first real shot at business.
Fantastic. It's so great.
Yeah.
I didn't, you're 23.
Yeah, man. The
What
beard
the hell?
the beard is misleading, and I think it's a good thing, to be honest. Get on a call with somebody and the beard gives me like an extra 5 years.
Yeah. Well, also the fact that you're engaged. So I think people, because
Yeah,
people are getting married later these days. So people probably
they are.
assume that and
Yeah.
the beard, maybe people didn't think about. I guess you were like 28, 27,
Yeah,
28.
that's everybody says 27, 28, and my fiance is 27.
Okay.
So,
There
yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
Even she got fooled.
Yeah, she did. She had no clue. She had no clue, man. She thought I was like 30.
Um, so pull it back a little bit. And actually, we should just talk about like who you are and what you do. Maybe you want to just introduce yourself.
Yeah, for sure. My name is Justin. Right now I guess you could call me a podcast coach for
Hmm.
6 to 7 figure coaches. Not just coaches, kind of entrepreneurs in general, but I figured that entrepreneurs doesn't really inspire a lot of like uniqueness because it's a very broad term. So mostly coaches. I help them launch really epic podcasts done for you, but I also make them into exceptional podcast coaches through asking better questions, setting up better hooks, really getting to know their listener. And then I own an agency that does the entire podcast production for them so that when the show is launched, they don't have to do anything other than sit down and record, and the rest is kind of done for them.
Okay, so that like that production side is like everything before the podcast gets recorded, and then it's
No,
the distribution
everything.
side after too, right?
Yeah, so the guest will, or sorry, the client will record virtually or in person, depending on their setup, and they drop the files, or their assistant drops the files. They spend an hour recording, and then we do all the copywriting. We do all the full video editing for YouTube, the audio published everywhere, all the streaming platforms automatically for them, the titles, the timestamps, there's a whole bunch of stuff, and then we create a bunch of content from it as well. So we make
Mhm.
clips, we make longer clips for YouTube, and we do a bunch of written content for them, which they can then edit and kind of use however they want. At the end of the day, it ends up with like, your weekly podcast that you spend an hour on gets you about 30 pieces of content for social media on top of, the podcast itself. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
So I think there's a few things all wrapped into that. And you just mentioned a few minutes ago how your business took off when you combined like targeted cold outreach, both on platform, i.e. you focused on LinkedIn instead of Facebook because there's more
Yeah,
business owners on LinkedIn. And I think LinkedIn is a platform where people have an expectation that there's going to be that they're going to get pitches. You expect a cold pitch on LinkedIn, whereas it's a little bit more annoying. You're more likely to block a cold pitch if it comes in on Facebook.
exactly.
But then you combine that with daily content that you've been putting out personally.
Yeah.
And this is the thing I keep on hearing people saying all the time, the last, at least, definitely the last 6 months. It's always been around, but more and more. It's like nobody's buying your stuff unless they can have a little sniff around and see that you've got like, that there's a paper trail for you. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I just find it funny because even just the partnership that I got in order to like I partnered with quite a large company to do this. I shot way above my whatever you want to call it, my weight class or whatever you want to call it. And this was because I was so active on Facebook in a space where there's very few people active on Facebook for it. Like podcast experts, quote unquote, on Facebook. Like there's like 10 of us, right? And none of them post as much as I do. I don't post just daily anymore. I post like twice a day now. I got like a strategy for that. But what happened was when the guy made a post on his personal page and said, I'm looking for a strategic partner in the podcasting space. And I got tagged. And that was like a huge surprise, right? Because I didn't even know the person who tagged me. Never talked to this person in my life. But they tag me, and then immediately, this guy checks out my page, and I've been posting for like 6 months, and he just sees post after post after post with engagement and all sorts of awesome people engaging. Like, I mean, even just you commenting on it, and then maybe people will go to your page and look at your content, and like people start digging, right? And you got to make sure that you've got like, you've got enough dirt there for them to keep digging and keep on finding more stuff. And so it's not just the content, but the content fuels then the connections and people comment and then you reply and then you start conversations and then you build more connections and you get referrals and you find podcast guesting opportunities like this one where it's super organic and it's, and so yeah, like this is like what I've been preaching this a lot, like about just making the content. It takes me like an hour a week, like not even. I just make posts and like 50% personal life, 50% business. And there's no real strategy. I'm just posting what I want to say.
So yeah, that was kind of my next question. So you've preempted. It doesn't have to be all that much strategy with if you've got a simple message and you've just got to keep saying it over and over again because there's always somebody who hasn't heard it yet, even when you're bored of
Exactly.
your mind of hearing what your own message.
Exactly. 100%.
It's hard to do. A lot of people get bored of their own message, and then they don't talk about it no more. I mean, I've done it myself. I kind of got bored of talking about networking,
Yeah.
but you've got to keep on if you're going to build an offer around a theme or a topic, you have to just keep talking about it relentlessly forever, evermore.
Well, you got to love it.
True. This is the thing.
Totally. Yeah.
So let's talk about that. You actually, got into podcasting, but you're and like podcasting is kind of one part of your expression of being, I think, more broadly a performer. Would that be the right way to talk about you? Because you do music,
Yeah.
you do video, but you've grown up around the theater, right?
Yeah. I would say like a creative, like mostly in the audio space, but it's like a combination of like everything stemmed from my ability to like I was an audio engineer. So I was producing music and the second that I grew up performing and everything, but the second that I decided to learn that skill of using an audio production software was when my
Mm-hmm.
entire life like that was the single skill that was like my $1 million skill is like what I'll say. And so yeah, my life is like it's like half music, half my podcasting business. Recently it's been like 80% my podcasting business, but
Mm-hmm.
as it grows, I'm stepping away in different ways more and more. And my brain actually just over the last month has been free enough to start writing again, which has been sick. Um, but yeah, those are my two kind of identities.
Yes, and you started out as a musician first, right? And you got into podcasting because the musician side, like you, because you were popular, right? I've seen some of your music videos. Like you were
Yeah.
getting lots of views and engagement, but it wasn't turning into money. Is that right?
Yeah, it was just like I wonder what it was in particular. I knew that I didn't want to be a live performer for a living.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, making money through like there's a lot of musicians who make a lot of money just through creating content, like from their, from their home studio. I didn't really realize that was a thing at the time, but I was limited a lot by the fact that I didn't want to be a touring performer. And every path seemed to lead to being a touring performer. Like a label wants to sign you, you got to be touring, or you want to release music, you got to tour it. It's like I just don't want to do that. Like I do not want to be geographically bound in any way to make my money. I don't want to be expected to show up whether or not I'm ill or like I grew up around like my dad was that. He was an opera singer who would just get shipped off to a new country, a new city whenever a job showed up. And it's like I saw that. I saw like what it did to him and I was like there's just no way that's going to be the life that I want to live. Um and I had this skill as an audio engineer and I was doing a whole bunch of different stuff and so I just decided to edit a couple podcasts of people who just said, can you do this? I was like, I don't know if I can do this. It started with editing, charging like $30 for an edit, and that was 6 years ago.
So, so, I mean, it sounds like when you kind of did the podcasting side, the engineering side is like that's when you figure, okay, I can turn this into a monetizable skill. But how like that's a very transactional kind of commoditized skill. Like I will edit your podcast for $30 an hour. And it's where everybody kind of starts out. But then where did you get the exposure to understand, hey, I can actually create value adds here by packaging this skill with a bunch of other services and turning it into something that's more than the sum of its parts?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to really reflect on that, so it'll be like this is my opportunity to reflect on that. It started with a misconception about like work in general, thinking that well really just not having any other idea about making money other than like my hours that I spend, like the work that I do is the only way that I'm going to get paid for anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it just kind of happened naturally that I was editing more and more podcasts and then I was like, you know what, I could just hire somebody else to do the editing and then take the margin for myself just to manage it. And that was like sort of an initial thing. And then people were like, well, I also would love it if you could do some of the writing. I'm like, okay, writing. I need a copywriter. So go and talk to a copywriter, all contract based work. Now I've got a team. I've got like an audio editor and a copywriter. And then it was like, okay, I now need like, someone's got to do the full video as well. Like, and we need some graphics and graphic designer, video editor. And then it's like, do I really need to be the one tracking the projects? Like, do I really need to be the one scheduling stuff? Project manager. That's the agency. That's the whole agency right there. And I ran that for like 4 years. And it was really, really small. It was like 3,000 to 4,000 bucks a month max. That was like but it was an awesome side thing for me because I was writing music. I was blowing up on Fiverr.com. I had a whole career on Fiverr.com. I was making all my money on Fiverr. Combined with some odd sponsorships on my TikTok and my Instagram, I was bringing in some good cash and I was super spread and like, but I wasn't working that much. And on the podcast stuff, I wasn't working more than like three or 4 hours a week. Like I was barely doing anything. It was just bringing in some nice money. But then came a time when I really started despising creating content on TikTok and the writing was becoming tedious. I was writing so many songs and really felt like I was just like hammering my head against a wall to try and get the creativity to just pump out like regardless of what was happening that day, I had to be creative. And I was like, I hate that. Like I'm building myself a full-time job here that is draining the crap out of me. And it was there where I had to take a step back and I'd written like 300 songs. So in the music world, people still thought I was writing because I had this huge catalog of songs. Songs were coming out all the time. I was selling tracks. I have a publishing company that I'm about to sign with who does all of my management stuff. They pitch my songs for me, and people still thought I was writing. But what happened was I really took a step back. My fiance moved here from Italy and she needed something to make money. Like she needed a way to make money. And it was like she was thinking about being a teacher here. And I just start like kind of like taking a step back and looking at what our lives would be like if that was the route that we started going down. Like her being a teacher, being geographically bound to a contract for 8 or 10 months or whatever in a place. And I was like, no, no way. And so bye bye project manager that we had at the time. My fiance became the project manager. She learned everything about the business. For about a year, she just did everything and really, really soaked it all in. And right before she was gonna join, I was like gonna stop. I was gonna shut it off, send the client somewhere else, and stop the business and focus on writing.
Hmm.
And but she came in, and the first thing that we did is we spent like 10 grand on a coach, and that was 10 grand. That's like gonna be the best returning investment that I have ever made in my entire life. Um, he opened us up to a world in which we could make like tens of thousands of dollars a month with systems and automations and a signature offer, right? Because I think a lot of businesses are starting in this mode of like offering like different services in like different packages.
Hmm.
And I guess the thing with packages that happens was like your clients don't know what the hell they want. That's why they're here. Like they don't know that they need, clips per episode and they need this type of copywriting and they so you're offering them levels of service and they're sitting there like I don't know what the service is. So how do I know what level I want? So we killed all the packages and we made one thing and we're just selling that one thing. And that one thing has been what we've been selling for the last year. And all 2023 we lost money like every month. Every month was like negative, 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 like 3,000, 4,000 bucks. Like it was just terrible. It was like awful. And music was keeping us afloat, reasonably well too. Like I wasn't writing, but all the songs I'd written were selling and paying us off royalties and everything. And then December and January, it's like boom. And then in this month, we'll make more than we made all of 2023 just in this month.
Oh, that's amazing.
So massive growth. And I think one of the biggest things that switched was that we had a massive like 6 month commitment offer. So it was like you pay us a big lump sum and you get the launch of your podcast plus 24 episodes, like 6 months. And someone was like, what if you like just sell the launch and then give people the option to stick with you guys if they want? But that way
Mhm.
you can get people in the door. And I was like, no, that's not gonna work. And then I like made the offer, made the pitch deck, wrote up a 1 page, and I was like, this is 10 times better than anything we were doing before. And got onto sales calls with that, and it was just like selling, 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 selling. And we turned our agency offer into a continuation that was a decision. Of course, we have 0% churn because we have a price that is so incredibly like you can't beat it for what we're doing. And we're also holding their hand throughout the whole process, but by breaking it up into the initial launch and then the month to month afterwards with no contract, no real commitment. Um, yeah, I mean we have massive recurring revenue plus the new clients, and now a lot of other avenues that we're gonna go. Because we don't just want to keep scaling that, we want to go different directions now.
Hey, yeah, I mean, so you kind of basically broke you first off is you took a bunch of agency services, combined them into an offer. But then the resistance there was this idea that someone was going to have to make a long-term commitment at the front
Yeah.
door. And so then you went and split that offer into two parts, into a front end where it's a one-time purchase, easy to say yes to. And then you over deliver like a crap out of that front end purchase and then say, hey, would you like to keep working with us? And then that's the back end offer where there's continuity. And that gives your business the recurring revenue.
Yeah, and the one thing that I'll add to that was the silver bullet was like, and I didn't think it was super important when I was first doing it, but man, I was like, I gotta put some bonuses in here. So I threw in a bunch of bonuses. We'll get you on podcast as a guest, two podcasts as a guest. We'll get 4 guests for your show. we'll get you a free strategy session with a story brand expert so you can hone in your podcast story and all these things, just kind of throwing. And then I added in, we'll do your first 4 episodes for you for free. And it's like once they get those first 4 episodes and they see the quality, they're like they're never they're never gonna want to go. And like it's not like we're maliciously like hooking them in. It's like they shouldn't go. Like we have the best offer on the market for producing a podcast month after month. I don't want them to go anywhere else. It's what's best for them to stick around with us, but to show them that the value was really big. And so, we lose money on that. Like every time we lose a couple $1,000. So it's a sacrifice, but like, would you sacrifice 2,000 to make 20? Like, of course. So
Yes. Let's walk through those bonuses again, because these are like, you're not primarily a marketer, right, Justin? Is that correct to
I
say?
don't think so. People have maybe said that, but I don't think I would classify myself as that.
So, I mean, and then your coach who helped you put this together, are they very much a marketer?
Yes. Pretty much they grew a massive business and they're just kind of coaching you on their process.
Okay. So let's
Yeah.
walk through those bonuses again, because those are really cool. Let's talk about
Yeah.
them one by one. What were those bonuses?
So first one, which is a $1,500 value, everything in USD. I mean, I'm Canadian, so I always have to freaking clarify that. But $1,500 for the first 4 episodes done for you. We do all the
Okay.
copy and everything. Yep.
So let's talk about this, because it's not the dollar value that really makes it interesting. It's the
Okay.
psychological barrier it helps the person get past to say yes when they might otherwise have said, "Oh, I can't, I want to do it, but I can't because blah, blah, blah." And they have five bullshit reasons to say no, even though they
Yes.
want it. So that one about we'll do your first preference is like, that's like the kind of, I don't know nothing. I'm totally overwhelmed. And where the crap do I start? Well, you don't have to think
Yeah.
about that because the first 4 episodes are already done. So you don't even have to think about that for a month. So you can just say yes today and we'll figure that part out after you've done a few episodes and you've already got experience. Huge
Exactly.
objection handled. Let's talk about your next bonus.
Yeah, our next one is we'll line 4 guests up on your show who are within your industry or who are aligned with your show's mission.
So who the hell is going to come on my show? I don't want to ask all my friends. I don't want to post publicly about it. It'd be so embarrassing. And what if people say no to me? I'll be so ashamed. It's all going to suck. And I just don't want to do it. I'm so anxious right now. Problem solved, right?
Exactly. Totally.
Okay, next bonus.
We'll get you onto 2 podcasts as a guest.
Who's going to listen to my show? Who's going to watch my show? I don't have an audience. It's going to be so embarrassing when like my show goes up on Apple Podcasts and there's like 20 views. Like, who the hell's going to watch it? Well, problem solved. You're going to tap into other people's audiences.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. Is that all your bonuses, or are there any more?
No, there's one more which is like kind of cool because I was able to partner up with a guy who I've known for a long time who's just a real like he just got away with stories and he's looking for leads and we have the same ideal prospect and I messaged him and I was like, "Hey man, like would you do a 30-minute strategy session with each of my clients, get to know them and help them, lock their life story in with their podcast so that everything's aligned?" And he's like, "Sure." $300 is what he charges for that. Plop that on there. Every client who's come back out of that has been like, "This was so eye-opening." And I was like, "It was?" Like literally I did nothing.
Okay, so that's like the next thing is like, what the hell am I going to talk about on my podcast? Or what am I going to talk about when I go on the other people's podcasts? They're going to ask me stuff about myself. I'm going to stand there going, and I have nothing to say. And it's going to be super embarrassing. And I'm just going to want the ground to crack open and swallow me up whole. And I can't tolerate it. I'm too overwhelmed. And that's problem solved straight away, right?
Boom. Yeah.
Plus, it's also everyone loves to talk about themselves, even if they say they don't. So it's like a 30
Oh
minute
yeah.
therapy session that they're also
Oh
getting
yeah.
thrown in.
Exactly.
I love it. Like the structure of that offer is genius. So like did you iterate on that to find your way to putting it all together bit by bit, or did your coach actually help you to compile and put that all together?
Man, I'll be honest, like my coach helped me for the very first offer, the very
Mm-hmm.
first iteration. The rest was listening to the humans that I was doing these calls with and listening to what they wanted, what they needed. And And I want to say like that I also feel really natural in the space of like creating the offer and everything. Like my coach definitely got my mind going, but
Hmm.
um yeah, I didn't like kind of intentionally set about like I'm gonna make this offer this way. It's just been like, keeping it fluid and being okay with the fact that something's gonna need to change all the time. I have it on my list at all times, like every month, go into my one sheet, make changes. Go into my one sheet, like update the offer all the time.
I love it.
Yeah.
So you say that's come from listening to people on your sales calls and also listening to your clients express their problems. But I think you're kind of underserving yourself there a little bit because there's one thing to hear a person express a problem. There's another to take that and think, okay, how can I create a solution out of
Yeah.
that? And also deliver it in a cost-effective way that can be a profit, that can be part of a profitable service. Like that's very difficult to do. So how were you how did the people express these problems to you? What kind of things were they saying?
Well, the biggest one was actually it's like really funny. Like my fiance was on a networking call with a girl and she showed the girl our offer and she's a pretty high level business coach and she said I would not pay for the full thing, but I would definitely like just do a launch instead.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously that was a big one, but just like I wasn't really getting price objections. I wasn't really getting any objections that were making sense. I was just kind of getting like these people are just afraid to go in for 6 months and like of course they are. Like it makes perfect sense, right? Um and and then also working with clients and seeing the spots where they have that friction or they have trouble or challenges of some kind in some way, and immediately the second that I hear that or the second that I see that, iterate the offer, change the delivery, smooth that out, and mainly like one of the main reasons is because like I'm kind of lazy in that way. Like I don't want to have to deal with the same problem over and over again. I like could not be bothered to deal with the same problem. And so I just don't want to spend more time doing that. So I'll just make the thing or fix the thing so that I can not have to deal with it anymore.
So those problems that your clients have that led to the objections coming up that then lead to you actually crafting new parts of your offer to to preempt those objections and make sure they don't even arise, that the sale happens more smoothly. Do the clients express those problems in a direct way with you, or did you have to figure it out like indirectly from things that they hinted at?
It's pretty much all indirect, but also funny enough, one of the questions that I kind of was asking, I don't do it as much anymore, but one of the questions I was asking people at the start was like, what have past programs done that pissed you off? Right. I even have like I have a contract, obviously, like a hard contract, but I also have a commitments contract. And it's just like a really, really casual thing where I pretty much say like what you must do in order to work with us and what we must do. And one of the things I have on there is like, you must tell us if we let you down or confuse you or frustrate you in some way. And so I am asking for that feedback, but I also just tell people to start, I'm like, what has been the biggest issue in the past with these programs that you've done? And hands down, every single human that I talked to said, I thought it was going to be something else when I got into it. It was way more complex than I thought. I didn't know what my next step was. I didn't know how long it was going to take. And so like I built I built a program that is so focused on simplicity. Simplicity is within the language, it's within the name, it's within the messaging of my ads, it's within everything. And the same woman who told me really said to me like I could not handle my last program because of how unclear the next step was. That same woman
One sec.
spoke to a
Just a few minutes on. Thank you.
classic podcast moment. No, like
Oh, good.
literally every edit we do, it's like remove the my kid coming in at 16 minutes. But anyways, the same woman who said that to me when she got on with us, when she first started launching with us, actually referred a client to us. And the client in the sales call said, that woman, like, whatever her name was, she mentioned how simple and easy and straightforward your program was. Like that was the easiest sale of my life. Like I signed that person on like within 20 minutes on a call. The client that I literally had just worked with had already done the sale for me, and it was because I had already built our program around what she needed. And yeah, I guess, does that make sense?
It makes total sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know, darling, but I'm on a call. So I'll see you in a little while. I'll be there when I'm there. You guys go ahead without me. Thank you.
very sweet.
That's my daughter.
How old is she?
My son is just came in first. He's 8, and my daughter, she's just gone 10.
Cool, cool.
So, I mean, this is like hugely powerful because I can think of programs I've done, and it's the classic thing is like, you come in, you've got a problem to solve, and you just want to solve it. But oftentimes, what they do is put a bunch of new obstacles in your way before you can solve it. Oh, well, we can solve that problem for you, but first you're going to have to do this, 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 and this. And they give you 10 stupid, complicated things that you have to do to solve the one thing that you came in to solve in the first place. And
Yeah,
it's a huge reason for people not finishing programs or feeling like they've kind of been, you know, maybe missold or just not happy with it. I had that experience last year with a program that I I was supposed to invest in for 12 months, and 3 months in, I was just like, I've got this stack of papers on my desk of different exercises that I have to go through to try and get to
yeah,
this outcome. And I was like, this is not it. This
yeah,
is just added a bunch of extra unproductive complication into my life, and it's gotten me no closer to solving the original goal I came in to solve. In fact, it's gotten me in the opposite direction where I've got less time now than I had at the beginning, and that was
yeah,
what I wanted for this program, was to have more time free at the end of
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
And it's a rare thing that someone can actually put something together that really does truly simplify things and not just make it sound simple.
Yeah, and as you're saying that, it really makes me realize something that is way more important than I'm giving credit, which is, man, I'm doing our program myself. So I go through, I record my podcast. I know what the struggles are during recording. I also know how to edit the thing to perfection because I have all of that back audio engineering knowledge as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working out things that I want from my episode, whether it's a certain kind of content or maybe I don't like the way that this copywriting, like, our SOP for copywriting, I don't like the way that that makes me feel when I read it from my content. And boom, change to what I need for my show as I'm doing it. I'm recording interviews. I'm asking better questions. I'm changing up the way I do my intros to have a better hook. And as I'm doing all these things, I'm iterating the course that I put through people through at the start. I'm iterating our done for you production agency on the back end and really building something for me. And then it's like, if you want this too, cool. I mean, I built it for me, but I'll give it to you as well. You just have to exchange the money for all the time that I've spent making the thing.
Yes. So you're scratching your own itch.
Yeah.
The When you bring somebody in now as a potential client, do you find that you need to sell them on the value of actually being a podcaster themselves or having their own podcast, or are they already sold on it? It's more that they're looking for help with the how.
I've had the majority of my calls, people are very aware of what podcasting is right now and what it
Mm-hmm.
means. And I have it in some of my cold messaging that I'm already explaining what's going on in the podcasting world. Um, like one of my keys in my cold DM is like this idea that podcasting is a saturated market. That's what a lot of people are touting. And um, the truth is, like the stats that just came out in March are that only 13% of this saturated market is actually active. So
Mm-hmm.
you got 3 million podcasts, only about 100 or 275,000 or whatever 13% has, 375,000, something like that. I forget the number, but very, very small percentage of those are actually active. And then if you look at interview shows even farther, like you've only got about 100,000 active podcasts. So there's this massive misconception. And so when I tell people that in my cold DMing, they the people who are even just replying to that are people who have been thinking about this for a long time. And man, when I show them our offer, like on paper, when I show them my little Google Doc, like nothing fancy, I just have a Google Doc. When I show that to them, it's like there's not much I need to say on the side of the offer. They're like, no, no, I like the value. Like, of course, this is my dream. I've always wanted this. They're like, show me the price, right? That's like they're just they want to see what it costs. I show them the price, and it lines up with the value. It's still probably underpriced, but they're like ready to go. Like I went from a cold DM to a call that was booked less than 24 hours after I sent the DM to a sale after a 30-minute call, paid in full. I like didn't even know
Amazing.
that was possible. And right after I did that, I like told my coach, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I told a couple of my coaches, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just sold like this thing. And he's like, I'm super happy for you, but immediately raise the price. That was like the first thing he said. He's like, raise the price tomorrow, like now. So I did. Then I did another call. Exact same thing happened. And I'm at that price still right now. But we are underpriced. Like not underpriced, like I mean, we are a little bit, but it's also because when you're telling somebody that they're going to start a podcast, within my messaging and my language during the discovery process is like, you know that you're in this for a year. You realize that, right? Like this is 54 episodes at least. And if it's successful, you're in this for the foreseeable future.
Hmm.
So when I get a client, it's like I'm okay with charging 1,000, 2,000 bucks less up front because like I'm looking at a 3-year plus relationship like that I've had with some of my clients. Like I'm looking at a friendship, a business like relationship. I'm going to get to know your business. We're going to grow this thing together. Your show grows, my business grows as a result. Like let's do this. Um and so I kind of forgot why I even went there, but I was just kind of trying to give a picture of like the people do come knowing that they want to start a podcast. Um, and and through the cold DMing and through the content that I create, the messaging is all there of like, you know, they already show up kind of knowing that this is like a hugely valuable thing to be doing.
Hmm. One of the things for me that I believe is the most valuable reason to have some kind of place where there's a lot of content of you online. Like the reason I put these interviews up on YouTube is that there's not the direct. I'm not making any direct offers. I don't really sell anything on my podcast or try to sell things through YouTube. But I do know that when I meet somebody new and I'm about to do some business with them, they are Googling me and they are going to find videos of me talking long form. And they are going to listen to some of those videos if they're serious about doing business with me. And they're going to make a decision whether they like me or not as a human being off of watching some of those videos. And that
Yep.
is going to make that's going to be basically a lot of the time the deciding factor between whether they say yes or no to working with me. Because that's been my buying pattern in the past when I've wanted to invest like larger amounts of money with people, in a or work with somebody in a long term in a program. I definitely want to go and listen to a few of their podcast guest spots, or I'll grab a couple of videos of them teaching or doing something or talking with somebody before I'm willing to actually make the payment.
Yeah, and that's saving a lot of the person's time of having to do extra calls with you and go into like these longer sales conversations and stuff because your content is doing a lot of the selling for you, and that's where I think it's like super super valuable. Like happens to me all the time as well.
By the time they've got on a sales call with you, they've probably gone and listened to some of your podcast episodes already, right?
Absolutely. They want to also know like the strategy that we employ to do podcasts, and that's kind of what my podcast is. It's just like the different strategies that we use broken down into episodes.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to what you actually, the selling, a high ticket offer or selling something like this where the product is quite abstract, it's a collection of services that have been packaged to deliver a result.
Yep.
And, you know, all of the things that, you read about and learn about in this world is about selling to the outcome. So
Hmm.
can you just talk about the outcomes that you sell when you're talking to people? Because the process itself is largely irrelevant. You're taking that complication away. So what they're getting is the outcome. So what is that outcome as you sell it as they perceive it?
So I actually have a section where I go over like step 1 to 6 of our system and then what the outcomes are of that system. So I like have that in my sales document. And the outcomes are that you will nurture your network by interviewing them. You will build a trusting audience by creating solo long form content that dives into specific topics. You'll create 80% of your social media content on autopilot and you'll get
Love
leads
that
from
one.
your call to action.
Love that one.
Yeah. And I mean, like that is it's like it's not necessarily even it's not a promise. Like our business is a bit different because there's a whole bunch of done for you stuff as well. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you can sell somebody a promise like your business is going to explode or whatever. You're going to get 10 clients within the next whatever, but it's like our promise is really like to say that you're going to get 80% of your social media content on autopilot, like we deliver the content. If we don't, then like we wouldn't be in business. So it's like I don't have to do a lot of convincing on sales calls. I mean, maybe that's just it could be a result of the price being too low, I guess, but like I don't feel like I have to sell people anything on the value. Like they're on it, man. They're like in it. And actually one thing that I would add, which I think people should really do if they're not doing already, is like when somebody books a call, I have a mandatory homework video. It's a 15-minute overview of what our offer process looks like. And
Mm-hmm.
it's essentially everything on my sales page before the price. So when they come on the call, I'm like, did you watch the video? They're like, yeah, I watched it like an hour ago. I'm like, that saves me 20 minutes. Let's get to the price.
Love it. But
Yeah.
look, just to hit on that, like the 80% of social content on autopilot, why that is, I believe, so powerful listening to you say it, is that like they've already come in to solve a problem, which is, to get this podcast they want put together and to actually to get over the hump of not knowing how to go about putting it together and how to go about distributing it and to how to deal with getting guests, how to deal with getting other people to find out about it and listen to it and all these other things. And plus to create that content asset that's out there forever, that is builds authority for you, that makes you searchable, that makes
Yep.
people able to do due diligence on you without actually having to get on a long sales process, all these other benefits. But what this type of thing, like the 80% of social content, it's an over the top bullet. It's like a thing that they didn't know they wanted, but it also solves a problem that's a major pain in the ass because everyone knows they've got to create more content. And for most people, it's a pain in the ass to sit down and create it. So if they can get
Right.
that as just as an incidental, like, oh, we've just got this other thing that actually happens by accident when you do this thing with this. It's like if someone's marginal, they're sitting on the fence. That's the thing that gives them a little shove in the ass and gets them off the fence.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they didn't come trying to solve a problem of not creating enough content, but they all innately have that problem. And so yeah, it like sidelines them, right? And they're like, "Oh my," right? So yeah, and for us it's just a byproduct of editing the damn show. Like you get content from it. So like, why wouldn't we add it on top?
So this, I mean, like just all of this stuff. What I like about your story, Justin, is that it's happened very organically for you. You know,
Yeah.
like I've been a marketer for several years, and I've had things that worked well and things that haven't worked so well. But I see people who are and I work with lots of people. Some people are very intentional. They'll sit down and spend days like just writing the offer first. We've just gone through a process with somebody I work with recently where they had an offer that had been working really well for a while and it fatigued, just the thing you talked about earlier. They didn't update it for a long time. And it just got to a point that like month by month, the number of sales was going down and down till they got to a crisis point where they said, okay, we've really got to do something. So we ripped it up and we started from scratch. We wrote a whole new offer. We launched it recently and we saw straight away within a couple of days, just changing the offer. We didn't really change anything else, but changing the offer, suddenly the sales started to go up again. I said, oh, okay. So we really need to be on this and doing it more and more. But
Yeah.
the way we went about that process was extremely intentional. We sat down and we said, okay, let's, here's all these different problems. How can we solve them all? We wrote the wish list. We turned that into the offer and we sold the damn thing first. And then we went to the team, the fulfillment team, and said, okay, we've now promised all this stuff to the customers. You guys have to build it all for us and quick because people are already buying. And that's
Yes.
the like that's a classic marketer way of doing things. But it sounds like you've
I
actually
totally.
like that's a stressful thing as well. Like, but you've done it in a sort of slightly different perspective where you've just organically stacked things up over time as they've become apparent that that problem was there and needed to be solved.
Yeah, I just like I always break the mold. Like I've been breaking the mold since I don't know, since I was like a baby. And I always just do what I like doing. Like I have a problem where I just like I can't get myself to do things that I don't really want to do. Luckily,
Mm-hmm.
I like to do a lot of things that are not easy. And this yeah, the whole way that this business came about is just very funny because I never sat down and was like, here's my business plan. Here's the exact way I'm going to go about doing this. Here's the exact and the result is a business that's incredibly aligned. Like, I mean, I the last month or two, we've made more, yeah, so like we've made more money. Like we've made twice as much money in since January than we did all of 2023. And I've been working less hours than I did in 2023. So I've been working like 25, maybe 20, 25 hours per week. I sometimes just take Friday off. I don't even touch my phone on the weekends. I mean, the agency side is also like that's a whole other podcast. I got like we got a team of 15 that does the podcast, and I don't even know what they're doing over there half the time because my fiance is in charge of that side of things.
Mm-hmm.
But my mind is super clear and free. I only have a few tasks that I do, really high leverage. Everything that I don't want to do, I just hand off. And it's just the business has just been a reflection of like my personality. And it feels really aligned. And 2025, it wouldn't even be that big of a goal to say that we'll make $1 million, like gross. But like a big goal would say 3 million, and that's possible. But I would say like a relatively easy goal is like $1 million in 2025, which is insane. Like, yeah,
So you split it now that you are you're product development and sales, and she is
yeah,
operations and fulfillment. Is that right?
and it's just like our personalities. I'm very in the clouds, thinking, creative, and she is very much like the get shit done type of personality,
Okay.
and she loves like she loves doing that part of the business and I can't do it. I can't have tons of deadlines and all sorts of things going on. I have to just keep my head clear. So, yeah, thank God for meeting a person who's just the perfect fit for running the business that I want to run as well. I can't even like comprehend how lucky that was.
Mm-hmm. One thing I wanted to ask you as well is just, you are somebody who's grown up performing. Like I've seen videos you posted a video recently of you like playing with your band when you were 10 years old or some stuff
Yeah.
like that. And but like and your mom and dad are like you said your dad is an opera singer, your mom and dad were in the theater, they were performing artists. So you've always been
Yeah.
around this idea of like putting yourself out there, standing in front of a crowd of strangers and actually putting on a show for people.
Yeah.
Um but like for so you like because you've been doing that from the age of like being a tiny kid and around it, it doesn't present any fear for you. There's no trepidation. But for most people, like that idea about public speaking, putting themselves out there, or the potential for public embarrassment scares the crap out of most people. So how do you help your
Yeah.
clients get over that hump?
I will say that being a performer has made me acutely aware of how unbelievably scary it is to the point where I'm probably more anxious than my clients about public speaking or performing or public embarrassment. Like, because I did it. Like, I've done the things. I've forgotten the lyric. I've looked like an absolute fool. I've tripped over the mic cable in front of 10,000 people. Like, I did all that, but I also have all of the happy feelings as well, like the absolute euphoria of succeeding at something that was scary and getting in front of the people and sharing something. And um I think for like podcasting specifically, it is very personal because you're kind of just like in your room, you're comfortable, you're recording on your own time, there's no live audience, it's like this is your way of getting in front of people, but people still do have those fears that they're going to say something stupid or nobody's gonna listen or whatever, or they're gonna look like a fool. It's like, say something stupid, get on with it. It's podcasting. People are gonna love you for it anyways. Like people are gonna love the authenticity. They're gonna love your mess ups. Like we have an editing team. We edit out. some stuff, but we leave a lot of stuff in. Like, if somebody's kid enters the room or whatever, it's like we're gonna leave that. Like it's podcasting. Like that's why not just go and do something else if you're gonna like be editing everything out? Like keep it alive and I do like personally like I see very little comparison from like performing like let's say on like in front of an audience or something and podcasting. I'm like much more feel much more safe podcasting, whereas performing is like literally like when it feels like you're dying. Like I've literally had times before a performance where I literally I was one time backstage and I was gonna do a solo piece for this big touring production. The conductor was like the dream conductor. He was very famous. He was like John Denver's main songwriter and composer, and it's about to come on stage to do a solo with the whole orchestra. And I don't even know, like my mind went blank, and I opened the door to the theater and I just walked out and I started just leaving. I was gonna perform in like 10 minutes, and I started just walking away from the theater, like into just like planning on I don't know running away or something. And then I would like caught myself. I'm like what am I like I can't just like leave. So I remember like going back in, opening the door pretty much directly after walking back into the theater, just walking onto the stage and just like this, you know, so much fear, but you just like walk right into the face of it and then you come out so much stronger. But super sidetrack. But I guess like the answer to that would be like a lot of times for people I'm just like suck it up and get out there and start doing it. And some tough love stuff, but yeah,
Okay. All right. I'm gonna wrap it up there. Thank you so much
totally.
for coming today. I will put, links and stuff in the video description on YouTube. But where is the best place for people to find out about you? Should they listen to your podcast? Should they go to your website? What should they do?
Honestly, the best place would be to go to Podigy Podcasts
Mm-hmm.
on Instagram. So that's PODIGY podcasts. So
Mm-hmm.
multiple. And just to shoot us a DM there. Like I'm super active there. You can just, if you're even curious that podcasting might be something that you're interested in, we've got like a free community for prospective podcasters or people who have their own show. It's better than like the majority of paid communities, but it's free. And so if you DM me on Instagram, I can drop you the link for that as well. And yeah,
Awesome. Okay, that's fantastic. Thanks for being here today, Justin. Really appreciate you coming on to talk.
totally. Yeah. Thanks a lot for having me.
All right, going to stop the recording now. If my Bluetooth mouse will respond.